Among the highlights at FingerLakes1.tv this week, the inaugural episode of the Golf J podcast, the history of a popular downtown Seneca Falls gathering place that first opened their doors 44 years ago, say goodbye to the Moody Mile at the Syracuse Fairgrounds, and the Minders Athletics Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Among those inducted into the Minders Athletics Hall of Fame on Sunday night was New York State Senator Mike Nozzolio. In his induction speech, he talked about what makes his hometown of Seneca Falls so special.
Lastly, I just want to say how great it was to grow up in Seneca Falls. We were fortunate. Every day was a sports day for us, from Little League baseball to football to countless pickup games, from playing in the backyard to the Knights of Columbus fields, whatever fields we could find, we played on. With pickup games, from basketball at the rec center from 6th grade on to high school sports. It mattered not who your families were or where they lived. What did matter was how you represented our team and how much effort you gave and what quality of teammate you were. That's the beauty of our community. That's the beauty of sports in our community. And that's what makes Seneca Falls such a wonderful place. It's clear to me that I certainly was never as accomplished an athlete as those recognized, but I know this, that I would not have accomplished whatever I have in life if it wasn't for athletics, for the athletic opportunities that were provided by our parents, that generation, the community at large, in recognizing the importance of athletic endeavor. And that certainly is something that I'm extremely grateful for. Work hard as a senator to ensure that those opportunities are provided to other students across this region. One very last thought. I want to comment about what Rod said earlier, particularly since the 1965-66 wrestling team is being honored. That was a year that I was a freshman. We were freshmen. I just completed JV football under Coach Abe Myers, and then playing JV basketball. I was a teammate at Ted's. That I remember going many times to the wrestling matches. It was a fun thing to do, something we did as students to support. And I vividly recall one match where a particular Minders wrestler displayed particular strength, extraordinary swiftness and agility, and he won a very exciting individual match that proved to be the linchpin in the team's victory. I didn't know that wrestler personally. He was a senior, I was a freshman, but I lost track of him after graduation from Minders, although it was about 3 years later that I did see him again, briefly, in Seneca Falls at the annual Memorial Day services then held at the Restvale Cemetery on East Barrett Street. He was seated in the back of the Red Jacket Fire Department rescue truck that served as the rostrum for the event. It was a challenge for him to stand, and he was recognized for his military service in Vietnam. I've not crossed paths with him since then, but I carried those thoughts of a Minders wrestler, swift, agile, and strong, with the thought of the Vietnam veteran who returned home, a wounded warrior. And I carried that image in each of the over 100 Memorial Day speeches and Veterans Day ceremonies that I've been linked to and participate in as a state representative. Our nation can never adequately thank those who have served us. We all know the many former Minders Academy athletes who served with great distinction. Soldiers like Colonels Buchwald and Carasillo. Captains in the Navy like Joe Aviduti. And one of our classmates of Mark and I and Franz, who was a football teammate, Danny Merkel, lost his life in Vietnam. But the Minders wrestler I'm referring to volunteered for service in the Marine Corps, served in battle zones, and received significant life-threatening wounds. There were no Wounded Warrior programs when he first came home, but I'm happy he is here tonight and honored to share this evening with him. Please, as a Seneca Falls community, take the time to welcome home a great American patriot and a genuine American hero. His name was Aga then, but he goes by Dan now, Dan Hansen. Let's all thank him for his service as a patriot and American hero. Dan Hansen.
Red's Place in Seneca Falls has been serving great lunches and been a local gathering place for 2 generations of Seneca Falls residents. On Tuesday, Red's Place manager Lisa Von Bergen was a guest on Healthy Cooking with Your Friendly Italians, where she talked about how the establishment became known as the Men's Hall of Fame and some of the controversy surrounding it.
All right.
So tell us a little bit more about the history of Red's. Now, it was mostly a bar, you thought?
I think a lot of people consider us mostly a bar, tavern, that serves lunches, local fare. But like we were talking earlier, we've been in business since '72.
Okay.
Really have only been closed down twice in history, and that was once when we moved from there
over.
to the local, or to where we are now, and then back in 2006 when we had the fire.
Oh,
We were-
that's right.
The kitchen was closed for 3 months. Bar was still open, but the kitchen was closed for 3 months, and we reopened December 18th that year, right before Christmas. So we got it. But we've been continuously open for
Yeah.
44 years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, same owners.
Serving good food, and a lot of people might not realize this, but it is famous for another reason. It is where the Men's Hall of Fame
Yeah.
started.
This is an interesting time. When the Hall of Fame opened at its present location, I had helped Joe Doyle and George Sewin were on the board, and Becky Holden was president at the time, and I helped raise money at that time. And we had a press conference. George was going to make this national news, so he asked all the national press corps to come, which included television and print. You're talking about the New York Times, you're talking, NBC, whatever. And they're here for the weekend, because it was a total weekend. So we get over to the press conference, and the director at the time says, they're asking her questions, and someone asks her, well, I just noticed that there's a Men's Hall of Fame across the street. So she grabs me, and she says, do something with them. So all right, I said, well, you know what, after the press conference, let's go over to Red's and have lunch. Obviously knew that her father would be delighted to have them, would be more than gracious as we walked in, and then we talked about the hall opening with your father. And this sort of, it got in the papers, but it wasn't the headline that we all perceived was at the opening of the National Women's Hall of Fame were the Hall of Fame, but your father was so gracious and wonderful.
So
Yeah.
there we are. We have a Women's Hall of Fame, and we have a Men's Hall of Fame.
Now, you said that men can just put whatever they want to.
Well, at times they believe they can. That happened one night. It was 1979.
Right.
Happened one night. Now they used to have this back in the days. They had these big signs that you slid the letters in.
Right.
And Dad had always kept the letters in a little box behind the bar to change his daily specials. And lo and behold, somebody got a hold of it, and it became the Men's Hall of Fame. So,
So it wasn't your father's
No,
idea
it wasn't
by any
any
means
means.
of the imagination.
he just kind of went with it, but that
Right.
was his personality. Dad went with everything. I mean,
Right,
he
right.
He was kind of
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a very nice man.
Yep.
Yes.
Kind of
And
went
your
with the flow.
mother's been wonderful,
Yes,
all these years. And
she had to be the business person. Dad was that one out. He was the public guy, public figure.
All right, it's time.
Okay.
Hamburgers. Best What's the
On
secret?
this week's Kenny's to Penny's, Ken
I don't
Haas
think it's
talks about the final dirt car race at the state fairgrounds and harkens back to the day where the modified cars raced at Maple Grove Speedway in Waterloo.
Well, I'm gonna go from those two to talking about what is a sad but great end to a great tradition in New York State. For 44 years, the Mighty Modifieds raced around the Moody Mile there at the New York State Fairgrounds. But part of Governor Cuomo's plan to invest and improve facilities there at the fairgrounds, the Moody Mile and the grandstands are both being demolished. And you know, for 44 years, that provided a lot of memories. That race has been going on ever since I was born, pretty much. But Stuart Friesen closed it with a win. And you know, a lot of memories went with it. As I mean, I've been a fan of the Mighty Modifieds most of my life. Watching Barefoot Bob McCready, the Dr. Danny Johnson, AJ Sideways Alan Johnson, Hurricane Steve Payne, and all the other greats run around that mile. But of course it'll continue up there in Oswego County. But you know, the closing of one makes me think of another track around here that hosted the Mighty Modifieds. You know, Waterloo's been clamoring for businesses or some economy to be downtown. And you know, long ago, Waterloo had one of the best tracks in New York State. Maple Grove Speedway was considered the best speedway in New York State. It was a unique tri-oval there at the Seneca County Fairgrounds. It held races till 1977. But of course, people around it started saying, "Oh, it's too loud. Oh." You know, I got an idea, and I hope officials of Waterloo and Waterloo residents are listening, as I know I've got some fans in Waterloo. You know, they say what downtown Waterloo was packed on race nights, and of course, one generation or maybe two generations have gone without racing at the Seneca County Fairgrounds. You know, people are going to say, "Oh, we don't want the noise, we don't want the dirt." But how about bringing the dirt modifieds back to Seneca County Fairgrounds? I know there's going to need to be a lot of investment done there to bring it up to DIRT specs. But you know, it would help the economy there, and you know, Connie's Diner and the others would love the business. And there could be other businesses that open in Waterloo. So you know, that's my call. Bring racing back to the Seneca County Fairgrounds. I think it would benefit a lot of people, and you know, you'd probably see me in the grandstands. But I
A
mean,
new
it's just
podcast
a
debuted
thought.
on Monday
What do you
night on our network. On the Golf J podcast, Jim Sinacropi and Rhett Taccone talked about Phil Mickelson's rule violation at the President's Cup matches last weekend in South Korea.
There's other things too. Phil's whole deal we can get into a little bit. That whole drama situation from the second day.
Right. And that basically was where the one ball rule was in effect for this.
Right,
It's
right.
not in effect for
90% of the time.
Yeah. It's but for this, the PGA Championship, this President's Cup's a PGA of America
Right.
event. So some of the rules are different than a USGA event or a PGA Tour event, and this is one of them. So when Mickelson realized he violated the one ball rule, the rules official basically told him that they lost the hole.
Right.
But that's not true. It's a one hole assessed penalty.
Right.
So at the point that Mickelson realized he violated the rule, they take one off the score right there.
Right.
But you continue from where you are.
Yeah, and he could have kept playing.
So he essentially lost 2 holes.
They did. Yeah, and that's
in one.
And that's tough to do for anybody to come back from. And you know, luckily for the United States, they actually did come back and have the match. But to leave it to Phil, you know, he's always tinkering. He's always got something going on. Not to gain an edge per se. You know, he wasn't doing it to one up somebody, but Phil's always looking for new ways to better his game.
So you think they pulled out the ball thinking I need a little higher ball flight, I'm going to go with the Pro V1X?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's how he plays. You know, he's a lot of different situations. You know, one tournament he leaves his driver and it doesn't even bring a driver out. One tournament he's got 2 drivers. I mean, he's always doing that type of stuff. And unfortunately, this time it came back to bite him, so to speak. You know, so the thing with that though is, you know, while yes, as he said in his press conference, was kind of coy about that, and you know, they did spot him, their best team, two shots or 2 holes, and still halved it. But at the end of the day, we only won by 1 point. So if they don't have that match because of that rules violation, we lose the cup.
Yeah, but there's a million things, a million points that swung on
True.
things.
Strokes, yeah, he missed putts, but I just, just for him to be tinkering and doing that and that to come up as not, other guys missed putts, missed shots, actually in play, This was an
was a
episode
two-hole
where
penalty
it was
because of a
two-hole
mistake,
penalty,
a
and it was
double
rules
mistake.
mistake. It was a mistake.
The rules
Absolutely.
official told Mickelson that they lost the hole. That was a mistake by
the
them.
rules.
I don't blame Phil for picking up at that point. He's just been
Yeah,
told by a rule official
exactly.
they lost the hole. It's unfortunate they couldn't rectify it, but they
Right.
discovered the error after it was too late. Once the next shot's played, so
Yeah.
forget about it.
Yeah.
Check out all of this
So,
week's episodes at FingerLakes1.tv or on the Finger Lakes One TV tab on our app. All of our audio programming is also streaming in rotation on Finger Lakes One Radio. Coming up this week on Finger Lakes One TV, longtime Minders and Waterloo principals and Brother Mike and Tony Ferrara will be in studio as guests on Weber this week to talk about their combined 70-plus years at the helm of the two northern Seneca County high schools. You can watch the interview live at 9:30 a.m. on Monday. Also, catch the Crash Course podcast live at 6 p.m. on Monday night, followed by the Golf J podcast at 9. Our full live webcast schedule is posted at our homepage or at fingerlakes1.tv. Thanks for watching. I'm Tara Irway for fingerlakes1.com. Have a great weekend.